"I've disciplined our daughter." Those were the words my husband proudly declared when I called to check on him while he was babysitting our 2-year-old daughter. "What do you mean?" He went on to explain that because she wouldn't stop crying, he had locked her out on the balcony. And then, if you can believe it, he'd gone off to play golf. We live on the 10th floor of an apartment building. I felt the blood drain from my face. That evening, when my husband returned home, he was in for a hellish surprise. Our daughter wasn't on the balcony, and when he peered over the railing, he saw the ground below stained a deep red. I met my husband, Tyler, through a mutual friend. He was 10 years my senior, but I was drawn to his seemingly nurturing nature. Tyler treated me like I was precious, and our relationship progressed smoothly from dating to marriage. Being with him was the happiest event of my life up to that point, and I never doubted that this happiness would continue. But that bliss was short-lived. A few months after we got married, Tyler started spending less and less time at home, always citing work as the reason. He'd come home after midnight every night, and sometimes he wouldn't come home for days without so much as a phone call. I knew from our dating days that being the president of his own company was demanding. But before we were married, he'd frequently ask me out on dates and was the type to send messages often, even when busy. So, I couldn't help but feel the stark difference after our marriage. However, at Tyler's request, I had quit my job as a nurse to become a full-time housewife when we got married. Because of this, I couldn't bring myself to complain to him when he was working so hard. Then, unexpectedly, I found out I was pregnant. The tiny life growing inside me, conceived with the husband I loved so dearly, was incredibly precious. Thoughts of our soon-to-be-born child helped ease my loneliness. Some time passed, and I safely gave birth to our daughter, Olivia. While I was overjoyed with our beautiful baby girl, Tyler's lifestyle remained unchanged. Him not being home due to work had become the norm, and on the rare occasions he was home, he'd either be sleeping in the bedroom or lounging around with his smartphone, never bothering to interact with or care for our daughter. To top it off, he'd leave me and Olivia behind on weekends to go golfing, his favorite hobby. Before we were married, my husband had said he loved children and was looking forward to raising them together, but his behavior now showed no signs of that enthusiasm. My parents lived far away, so I couldn't easily rely on them for help. I was struggling through first-time motherhood all alone. Not only that, but my husband was gradually becoming more domineering. He became particular about housework, our daughter's education, and discipline, demanding that I be the perfect wife and mother. "Is this all you've made for dinner? There's not enough variety." Tyler would complain about the meal I'd prepared when he came home late at night. "I'm sorry, but it's frustrating when you don't tell me what time you'll be home, or even if you're coming home at all. I'm sleep deprived from Olivia's night crying, so I'd like to go to bed early when I can. Is that any way to talk to the man who's working to support you? Who do you think puts food on the table? You're at home all day, so taking care of the child, the house, and supporting your husband are the least you can do. Got it?" My frustrations with my husband were mounting, but voicing them only led to him yelling and shutting me down. I tried to convince myself that enduring this and maintaining peace in our home was for Olivia's sake. There were days when I felt like I couldn't go on, but seeing my daughter's sweet smile gave me the strength to keep pushing forward. However, an incident occurred that made me fear I might not be able to continue this daily struggle. When Olivia was about 2 years old, I had a routine health checkup where they found something abnormal. When I rushed to the hospital, they told me, "We can't say anything definitive without more detailed tests, so you should have a thorough examination." I made an appointment for the following week. However, the examination would take all day, and I couldn't bring my 2-year-old daughter with me. I tried to arrange temporary childcare or a babysitter, but it was too last minute, and they were all fully booked. My mother was elderly and not in good health, so I couldn't ask her to come all the way to our house to look after Olivia. As I was racking my brain trying to figure out what to do, Tyler surprisingly said, "I guess I'll have to look after our daughter." I was shocked that my husband would offer such a thing, but I had an even bigger worry. Could Tyler really spend even just one day alone with Olivia? He had never once taken care of our daughter before, so I was extremely concerned. However, at that point, there was no other option, so I decided to trust him and leave Olivia in his care. On the day of my examination, I woke up early, wrote down instructions for taking care of our daughter in a way that even my husband could understand, prepared their meals, and made sure everything was perfectly set up. "Taking care of a kid is easy," Tyler said with a yawn, looking completely relaxed. I left for the hospital, feeling uneasy about leaving my daughter behind. Even during the examination, I couldn't stop worrying about Olivia. Did he change her diaper? Did he feed her properly? I was so preoccupied that I couldn't even focus on the fact that I might have a serious illness. When there was a break during the tests, I decided to call my husband to check on things. After several rings, Tyler finally picked up. "Is Olivia okay? Are you managing to take care of her?" "Everything's fine. I've disciplined her good." "What? What do you mean?" I immediately asked, not understanding what he was talking about. I thought I could just let the kid play by herself, but she wouldn't stop crying because of your bad parenting. So I taught her a lesson by locking her out on the balcony. My husband proudly told me this outrageous thing. "What are you thinking? We live on the 10th floor. You're overreacting. This is all because you haven't disciplined her properly." I had so many things I wanted to say to Tyler, but Olivia's safety was the top priority. "Bring Olivia back inside right now." "I can't. I'm out right now. I'm busy. Bye." My husband hung up without a hint of remorse. Hearing his words, I felt the blood drain from my face. I immediately halted the examination and rushed home in a taxi. "Please, let her be safe." When I arrived at our apartment, I opened the door with shaking hands. Stumbling down the hallway, I threw open the balcony window at the back of the living room. What I saw was my daughter in a terrible state. Seeing this, I decided to get revenge on my husband and put a certain plan into action. That evening, Tyler returned home. "Olivia must have learned her lesson by now," he said, carelessly humming as he opened the window. He seemed to be looking for our daughter, frantically glancing left and right. Why? It can't be. Tyler fearfully leaned over the railing to look down. He then screamed and stumbled backward. My husband was visibly shaking, clearly in shock. Well, I suppose it's time for me to make my appearance. I had been hiding in the kitchen, watching Tyler's reaction. I'm home. Thanks for babysitting. I emerged in front of my husband, acting as if I had just returned. Oh, you're back. It's terrible. Olivia might have fallen from the balcony. What? You mean what you said on the phone earlier was serious? I thought it must have been some kind of joke. According to him, there was a bright red stain on the ground directly below the balcony. I rushed out to the window to look. Kaya. When I screamed, Tyler broke out in a cold sweat and became even more flustered. It's Olivia's fault for not listening to me at all. That's no excuse. What were you doing all this time? Well, I went out to play golf. Are you kidding me? We need to call an ambulance right away. As I took out my phone from my pocket to dial 911, my husband shouted, "Stop," and snatched the phone away from me. If you do that, it'll cause a huge commotion and everyone will find out. I'll be blamed. It's not my fault. This happened because your discipline is lacking. Figure out what to do yourself. He finally snapped and tried to shift the blame onto me. Even in a situation where our daughter's life could be in danger, he was only thinking about covering for himself. His attitude pushed me to my breaking point. You're truly the worst. I've already saved Olivia long ago. What? You mean you tricked me? The truth is, when I rushed home after that phone call with Tyler, I found our daughter collapsed on the balcony. I scooped her up and rushed her to the hospital. After an examination, Olivia was diagnosed with dehydration and immediately admitted. If I hadn't cut my tests short, I shudder to think what might have happened. I wanted to see how my husband would react, so I had spread ketchup mixed with water on the ground below the balcony to make him think Olivia had fallen. Upon hearing my explanation, his face turned red with anger and he came at me. But I didn't flinch, glaring right back at him. Do you have any right to be angry? You abandoned our daughter to go have fun, didn't you? What do you mean? You went on a golf date with Amanda, didn't you? Wait a minute. How did you? To be honest, I had suspected my husband of cheating ever since shortly after our daughter was born, given how often he was away from home. Then, a certain person contacted me. She introduced herself as Amanda and said she worked at my husband's company. I started receiving persistent phone calls and messages from her saying, "Please break up with Tyler," which confirmed my suspicions about my husband's infidelity. I could have filed for divorce immediately if I wanted to, but our daughter was still very young at the time, so I felt I needed to prepare carefully. During this period, I had been gathering evidence of how terribly he had treated me and how utterly unhelpful he had been with childcare, all to ensure a favorable divorce settlement. Amanda kept trying to show me how lovey-dovey she and Tyler were. According to her, All those times I thought my husband was away for work were actually dates and trips with her. So, I assumed the errand he went out for after locking our daughter out was just another date with Amanda. Hearing my words, Tyler was clearly flustered, not knowing that Amanda had been in contact with me. "I have enough evidence of your affair. Please divorce me." I presented my husband with divorce papers, but he angrily refused, his face turning red. "Amanda is just a fling. It's ridiculous to divorce over something like that. And what about my social standing? I've been supporting you, so you should just shut up and do as I say." Tyler rattled off his one-sided arguments and started coming towards me. "You can't seriously think such selfish reasoning will work. Besides, I'm going to report how you treated Olivia this time." I confronted my husband, staring him down. But he just smirked at me, as if mocking my words. "Olivia ended up being fine, didn't she? She was just playing on the balcony by herself and felt unwell. That's all there is to it. There's no evidence that I did anything wrong." He declared this with a triumphant expression. "Are you serious? Do you really think that after enduring your mistreatment all this time and diligently gathering evidence, I would slip up at the very end?" I took something out of my pocket and showed it to my husband. "When did you?" After taking our daughter to the hospital, I had hidden a voice recorder in my pocket, wanting to get some decisive testimony from my husband. I had recorded everything from the moment he came home until this very instant. "I'm planning to take this to the police. What you did to Olivia is a clear crime." Faced with my unwavering, stern attitude, my husband became visibly shaken, sweat beading on his forehead. "Please, anything but that. I was wrong. I'm sorry for everything." His attitude changed completely from moments ago, and Tyler uttered words of apology for the first time. He got down on his knees, begging me to forgive him. However, even seeing my husband in such a state didn't shake my resolve. How could I possibly forgive you for putting our precious daughter in danger? You're a failure both as a husband and as a parent. I looked down at Tyler, rejecting him with those words, and left the house to go to the police, leaving him behind. Afterward, my husband was questioned, and based on the evidence I submitted, he was arrested. This incident was covered in local news and on social media, causing his company to lose all credibility and go bankrupt. Both Tyler and Amanda lost their jobs as a result. Through my lawyer, I finalized the divorce from my husband and demanded $120,000 for alimony due to his infidelity and child support. Furthermore, I sued Amanda, his mistress, for $20,000 in damages. Olivia was able to leave the hospital without any issues and is now living a healthy life. I also underwent a thorough medical examination and was relieved to be given a clean bill of health. I've since returned to work as a nurse, and I'm looking forward to living freely and happily with my daughter from now